All right. And here's the slides and the agenda in the chat again. Welcome everybody to January's PatternFly community meeting, the first of 2023. We have a handful of topics to cover, a little bit different than normal, so hopefully it'll be interesting. I will start with a few community topics, and then we'll dive into a few more presentations from other members of the community. The first update is just a little bit of a hint, a teaser. One thing that the PatternFly team and larger user experience team at Red Hat has been working on has been something we call the extension seed. Our extensions library is something that has been growing pretty quickly. Extensions to PatternFly, larger patterns solutions that multiple products or projects have been sharing. The extensions are growing pretty rapidly, and we have a lot of people who've built complex solutions they want to share. And whenever that happens, what we've built is we built this seed to basically allow you to take your extension code, whatever it is that you've built, and if you use the extension seed to basically build out that code, it will give you an opportunity to use documentation like you see on the PatternFly documentation page, and ultimately possibly hosted on the PatternFly website to make it more easily shareable. Those are a little bit of long-term goals, and we're still early in the extension seed process, but it is being tested by a few fledgling extensions, and even being used to expand upon the extension documentation that we haven't necessarily always had on the website for a few extensions that we've had around that have existed for a while. So with that being said, if that's something that's interesting to you, if you have code in or a solution, a larger complex design that you've built using PatternFly that you think is something other projects would be interested in, feel free to reach out to us to learn more about the extension seed and the efforts we're doing there. But hopefully within the next month or two at the community meeting, there will be a larger presentation on how the extension seed works and some of the efforts that have gone into so far using it. So it's exciting, and yeah, that's your teaser for that effort that's been going on, and an invitation for anyone who thinks that sounds interesting. Another thing, this is a question I asked at a previous community meeting, and as we've been working on our next major release, there's been a question about what format of modules people need for their JavaScript imports. Currently, PatternFly distributes probably more formats than we need, and so we could simplify our build and distribution process just a little bit if we pare it down some. But before we do that, we want to make sure that we're meeting product needs. So we're curious if anyone knows which format their product uses, how it consumes the JavaScript. We would love to talk to you. So feel free to raise your hand in the chat if you know, or if you know who might know. That would be super helpful. That's an ongoing conversation as well. Okay. A couple other small things. Last community meeting, I also mentioned the accessibility scorecard effort, and I just wanted to make sure people in the community were aware that this is something that UXC and PatternFly are trying to support right now. We've built out a scorecard that every product or project, any website could use to basically fill out and get a summary of the status of accessibility on their product, of compliance. That's what I was looking for. Accessibility compliance on their site, and even possibly identify violations and begin to make a plan for how to address those. We have done an accessibility scorecard for patternfly.org. Hopefully soon it will actually be hosted on the website itself, but you can view it on a Google Doc as a link in this slide deck. Hopefully all products at Red Hat especially will have an opportunity to have some sort of accessibility audit in the near future, and this is a great first step to understanding where you stand and how large the gap is for accessibility compliance right now. And we are happy to partner with products who are interested in this. So if you have any questions, absolutely reach out to me, and I'd be happy to point you in the right direction to how you might get this scorecard filled out for your product. There's a few links also here to our latest PatternFly and UXD Medium articles that the community might be interested in. Most recently, Dominate Your Accessibility is an article written by some members of the PatternFly team, Eric and Jesse, who have written about accessibility as it relates to your DOM structure, and it's super educational read for anyone who doesn't have a lot of background there, so I highly recommend it. We have a recap of our work that we did in 2022 and some information on updates to PatternFly documentation. That's been a major effort on the part of some members of the PatternFly team as well. So some articles there I'd love to make sure people are aware of and reading to keep up to date. And super quickly, we've mentioned before that we are currently working on our next major release of PatternFly, version 5. We are in process of trying to get the most recent PatternFly release out the door. It's currently in testing and hopefully only a day or two away. Oh, am I sounding bad to people? Evan, how am I sounding?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So yes, we're working on our major V5 release. Yes, where was I? Oh, okay. So we have a release hopefully going out in the next day or two, and it's going to be the last official feature release for the current version of PatternFly. So that basically, as of right now, all PatternFly devs are all hands on deck for the next major release, which hopefully will be available for testing in May and released in early June this year. It's not a major overhaul of PatternFly in the sense that, you know, once upon a time, PatternFly was built on top of Bootstrap, and we like released a huge restructuring of the website of the component library, and it required redesigns of everything for products to bring it in. It was a huge lift. This one is just built on top of V4, just a handful of breaking changes. We're hoping to fully support dark theme and React 18 with this major release. Hopefully, it's things that products are really, really excited to bring in. And as we go over the next few months, we are planning to have intermittent alpha testing and to talk more about that process and how products who are interested in seeing some of the alphas of V5 as they're being developed. I'm going to hand it over to Dallas so we can talk about the plan there. I'm happy to keep sharing, Dallas, if you'd like, unless you want to take over. Okay.
No.
Then I'll keep going.
Yeah, so if you're interested in alpha testing, we'd love to have you check it out. You can check out the versions on our React docs package.json, or you could also run that npx ncu command that's listed there to get the latest alpha version into your package.json. If you do test, it's good for you because we'll be able to see the issues earlier and have it running better for you once we have version 5 released. Hopefully have any issues kind of taken care of by then. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We do have code mods as well. And we're hoping to kind of address most of the changes with that. So the way code mods works, you would run them with the npx command there, npx pf code mods. You don't have to have any prerequisites or anything. You can actually even run it on your package right now with your version 4 PatternFly. And it would kind of it's kind of a good idea to run it now actually, and you can kind of see what changes you might have to make. We don't have all the changes in the code mods yet. We're kind of pushing a bunch in there, and we're hoping to get them in as fast as we can and have them all in for any of the breaking changes that will be in PatternFly 5 by the time it's released. It will kind of show you, here's some things that need to be changed. Most of our changes are renaming of components or properties, or maybe moving some property values around, stuff like that. They're mostly not too big of a deal. Some of them might require you to make the changes yourselves, which we would give you a warning or an error and say, hey, this is what we recommend you doing. Others we can fix, make the changes to your code automatically. You just add the fixed flag, similar to running yarn linters. And that's it for me, Nicole.
All right. So yeah, any products interested in getting involved in alpha testing have the instructions here on the slide deck, which will be sent out at the end of the meeting. And if you begin doing that and you wanna, we'd love to hear how it's going, feedback, pain points, any of that. So let me know. Let us know. Thank you. All right. So I was really, really hoping we'd have the latest PatternFly release live before this meeting and didn't quite get there. So that's why there's hints at the 2023 milestone on this slide. But since our last community meeting, we did release a relatively small release in last December. So you can see the release highlights and the release notes on the links on the slide. But like I said, it's relatively small. So I don't even know if we'll jump through any of the notes themselves during this meeting, but they're there for you if you're curious. And next meeting, we'll probably spend quite a bit of time walking through some of the last updates made to V4, which are going to be released soon. All right, and with that, we have an update from the UXD research, and I'm happy to keep presenting, Ivan, if you'd like, or I can hand it over to you. What would be easier?
Yeah, if you could keep on presenting, that'd be great.
Okay.
Yep, so next slide. Yeah, so I just want to start off with some of the updates and kind of like a recap of some of the activities we've gone over in the past year. So you'll see, I'm not going to go over everything in detail, but you can see there's links there that you can click on and just view specific studies that happened during the last calendar year. And you'll see the areas highlighted in green are things that are currently ongoing and planned for this quarter. So just a note about those links. From my understanding, only Red Hat employees can access these links. If you have any particular questions about any of these studies, just feel free to message me directly on Slack. One thing I wanted, I guess maybe two things I wanted to just point out here. The first item that's highlighted, the PatternFly release planning survey, I'm just going to take like a minute or two and a few seconds to go over, so you guys can see some of the findings from that. The in progress, that's a survey that we launched late last year in December, and we're looking to wrap up the findings this month. And that study is around theming preferences, as well as better understanding how customers use our products and how it relates to these different theming preferences. And the backlog, I just put a note there. So that's something that's still TBD. PatternFly user engagement program. So the idea behind that is that currently the team is kind of relies on users' proactiveness to reach out to them with insights and issues. So the idea here is that we want to kind of flip it around and be a little bit more proactive in terms of gathering user feedback in a more consistent basis, such that we reduce some of the risks associated with time-bound monolithic efforts, similar to like the ones that we've, similar to how we've, I guess, functioned in the past with just one-off research projects in a sense. Yeah, so that's TBD. If you have any questions about any of these, just feel free to message me again. So, yeah, next slide. Yeah, so I thought I'd spend maybe a minute or two max talking about the findings from the PatternFly release survey that recently launched and closed. I think probably a few of you on this call probably took this survey, so you're probably kind of curious as well as what happened. What were the findings from this? So I have this just one slide finding summary. So just to go over briefly, like the goals first. Essentially, what spurred this particular survey was that the PatternFly team was interested in better understanding the optimal cadence for future releases. because in the past we've I put a note there, like the last major release was 2 years ago, approximately 2 years ago, and the team is looking to set a more regular, consistent cadence for major releases, patches, and minor releases. So the main goal was to understand those aspects of adoption of releases, as well as better understand areas in which we can improve in order to increase the adoption of releases. So we ended up running a Qualtrics survey. We ended up getting 24 responses, and you'll see the key findings there. I just put 3 of the main ones. There's more in the link, but the top one there was that the cadences preferred by the respondents generally lined up with the PatternFly's team's current and planned cadences, which is a good thing. So in a sense, it's kind of a validation of the direction we currently are and are planning in the future. There's a bit more detail under there. I'm not going to go there, but you can read it on your own. The second finding there was that there was actually, looking at the current adoption rates of the PatternFly releases, there was mixed level of adoption. And if you look at that top finding where it says that the cadence kind of lines up with respondents' preferences, given that there's kind of a mix of level of adoption, this essentially suggests to us that there are other factors other than schedule considerations that are affecting people's adoption of our releases. So there's more details around those different factors, what are potential areas of improvements or exploration for PatternFly team that you can see in the report as well. And the last note I have here for key findings is there was a question in the survey to better understand what are important resources for developers when it comes to adopting the different releases that the team puts out. And documentation / upgrade guides was essentially the top rated on average. And you'll see I put a note there. It essentially was a scale question from 0 to 3, 3 being very important. It rated 2.6 out of 3, and that is the highest rated out of the other options. So there were also other pain points that were mentioned with respect to documentation. That's all on the report as well. So, but hopefully that kind of gives you a high-level understanding, and just if you're curious about the survey that you may have taken, the results from that. So, yeah, that's all I got, Nicole.
All right. Thank you very much. With that, another thing that we're going to probably be doing while we're a little bit heads down on our major release work is taking advantage of this, the lack of releases that are going to go out over the next couple months, to introduce some of the work that PatternFly has been doing to build out extensions. And since we've never formally introduced or demoed a lot of the extensions during a community meeting, we're probably going to have at least one extension of the month going forward. And a lot of work has been done the past few weeks on topology, so we figured we'd start there. I'm going to hand it over to Jenny to present on topology and the work going into topology right now. Would you like to present your slides, Jenny?
Sure, yeah, if I can steal the screen share from you, that would be awesome. I promise I will give it back. Alrighty, can we all see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, all right, awesome. Okay, so yeah, like Nicole just said, I'm thrilled to present the extension of the month, which is topology. And yeah, just to highlight what Nicole just mentioned, there has been a lot of work going on here in recent months, particularly in the area of topology documentation, which is an effort that was highly requested and sought after. So this presentation serves to show and highlight the work that was done in that particular area. So just to give a little background, what is topology and why is it so powerful? So the topology view provides a visual representation of all the applications within a project, such as their build status and the components and services associated with them. So here in this nice picture, we see our award-winning topology view in OpenShift, and you can see the nodes here and the connectors and labels and such, and all of the stuff that makes topology what it is. And you might be wondering which products currently use topology. Well, we have a whole bunch like OpenShift, Ansible, Kiali, and ACS. And here's a nice little visual demonstration about of topology in action. So you can see a connector that's connecting two nodes together, and we have a little grouping going on here as well. So the main question is, who has been requesting topology documentation? And it's pretty much been everyone who uses topology, and from Ansible to OpenShift to Kiali and those products I just mentioned. Jeff Phillips has been fielding questions left and right on how topology works and how to implement it, and if documentation exists for it or not. And the answer to that question has usually been not yet until now, which is very exciting. So we have some topology updates to the documentation, and our purpose was to get topology up to par with the existing PF docs, where our props and things are displayed with working demos and such. So we have added topology documentation to patternfly.org, and you'll be able to see that in this new release that should be released within the next day or two, which is exciting. So this includes functional demos and code for all of these topology examples. So I can just click here and show you what that would look like. So here you see these docs have been added. You have sort of like a basic usage description here, and useful, hopefully we think it's useful, baseline topology example. So this is a demo that we added. This is sort of like your minimum viable topology, which we hope will be helpful for getting started with it. And then custom nodes for custom styling, custom edges for custom edge styling. We have like a fancy animated edge going on here too. And then pan zoom if you want to zoom in and out. We have selectable topology for when you want to select nodes that you see. That's happening when you click on them. And yeah, we have some helpful documentation here as well for what to do and how to implement that as well. So Jeff Phillips and I have been working together on that and coming up with these helpful, useful demos for people, and like adjusting the verbiage enough for people to be able to understand how it works and how to implement it. So yeah, that's it for what we added so far, but many things are still in progress. So we have more demos and documentation coming soon, along with some restructuring of the topology repository too. And yeah, as this is a community meeting, feedback is open to the community and is greatly appreciated. So your comments or suggestions will definitely fuel further discussion and updates to topology and the demos and the docs. So if there's any feedback or comments, you can please kindly leave those in the topology channel in the PatternFly workspace on Slack. And yeah, that is about it for me. Thank you.
Great. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, definitely let us know, and get excited for more extensions of the month next month, I guess. With that, let me share the screen again. Well, actually, even before I do that, I don't have a slide for the next bullet point on the agenda, but we do have like we've mentioned many times, a release coming soon in the next couple days. And one of the things that's going to be included in those release notes and just in the release in general is, as one of the last feature releases for V4, we are planning, we took advantage of this release to make breaking changes to a few of our beta components while they were still in beta, because we're trying to make all of our event handling props use the same more similar API, so that the event is always the first prop in our event handler props. Event is always the first parameter in the event handler props. So you'll see more information about that in the release notes when they are live, but it does mean that if you're using a few of our beta components, one of the most popular being their search input, which is still in beta, the on-change handler for our search input just has its parameters reordered, so that you can more predictably assume that the first parameter in a event handler is the event. Hopefully that helps just for consistency across all of our components. And with our next major release, we will probably be making the same. We're planning to make the same update to our non-beta components since it's a breaking change release. And there will be code mods to hopefully help facilitate that change. But when you bring in the last feature release for version 4, you may notice that some of your beta components are throwing errors because they just need to make sure that the event handler parameters are in the right order. So if that becomes a problem for anybody or anyone has a question, definitely let me know. Evan has a question.
Okay, not so much a question, but just wanted to, I think you mentioned this at the beginning of that, but some of the research that we got from Ivan called out that, any sort of improved documentation would be helpful. But I think one big, that seems obvious in retrospect, but big call out is that just documenting what changed is a good start, but really kind of from your perspective, from a customer perspective, not only how does it affect me, but what do I need to do about it? So for these beta components, just to reiterate, you'll see at the top of the release notes, we've kind of, those changes are listed in our full list of release notes, but we've also pulled them out to that section at the top just to really, everything else is here's some new enhancements or some new features, but these are things that have changed that may potentially affect your code. So we're also open to feedback on that documentation. We thought, we went back and forth a little bit on how to make it easiest for consumers to find and, dive right into, okay, what do I need to take a look at, or, what would affect me if I'm using a beta component that has changes. So once you see those, if you have any feedback on how that could be improved or changed or anything along those lines, let us know. That's something we're trying to keep in mind with the major release too, is not just what changed, but hey, I'm a consumer, what do I need to do about this? Or how does this affect, something that I need to pay, extra attention to? So anyways, just want to say again, thanks to Ivan for that research, and any sort of feedback that you have, if it's helpful, if it's not helpful, if it scares you away from using them, or if it's really great to have that right up top, we'd love to just kind of hear that. Thanks.
All right. And with that, we do have an update from Tatani on some of the latest work on the React side. So I'm going to share my screen again and pass the mic over to Tatani.
Yeah, hi, good morning. So I think as Nicole already mentioned earlier, our last release was a pretty small release. The team is pretty much focused on some tech debt and kind of jumping ahead with getting some work done for V5. So the team worked on the fluid mods. There's some work done to continue improving unit testing, and our continued efforts in converting all our examples to TypeScript has also worked on. There's one new feature where we added insets to, oh, sorry, that's incorrect. It should be pagination. We added insets to pagination. And then, then we've been working on wrapping up some bugs for V4, so we can be more heads down on V5 going forward. And like Nicole mentioned, the next release will be our last feature release for V4. And then also, like I said, started work towards V5 efforts. So I'm going to share my screen real quick just to show the pagination work that we've been doing. Let's see. Okay. So we added support for insets with pagination. So you can see here, there's this is a 2XL inset. So we have a new inset prop, and it works with breakpoints. So you can, like, the default would be inset none. And here, this would be a large screen, which is set to inset 2XL. So if I want to just update that, none or medium, inserts working there. And in addition to that, we added another prop. Right here, use page insets. So if you want to use the insets that the page is set to, then you can just set this to true. And that's it.
All right, great. I think that is everything on the agenda. So let me pull up one more slide, and we might have some time for some question and answers if anyone has any questions for the PatternFly team or community in general. Let me share out the slide, which is always in the slide deck, but often don't even have time. Oops. Don't even have time to read during the community meetings because we are so full of topics. So if you are not already on the PatternFly mailing list, the link to join is right here on the slides. It's used primarily for sending out the recordings from these meetings, as well as a newsletter when we have one to keep the community up to date with goings on in PatternFly. We also do have a public PatternFly community calendar, so it'll keep you updated on when the community meeting, the office hours, and other public meetings are happening. And if they get rescheduled and such, you can see it if you add this to your personal calendar. So you can import the PatternFly community calendar via that link, as well as my contact information if there's ever anything you want to present at these meetings or any questions you have after the meetings. It is available right there. Our next office hours are tomorrow. So if anyone has any specific more dev nitty-gritty questions for any of the PatternFly devs, feel free to bring them to office hours tomorrow. And that's all I have. So does anybody have any questions while we're here or anything else they want to take advantage of this time before we call it today? All right. Well, then with that, that's all we have for our January community meeting. Thank you, everyone. And I'll see you next month with more information about the last V4 release and much more. Thanks.
Thank you, Nicole.